Frankie here, and welcome back to another episode of Taking a Stand. And ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached First Stand Preview Week. For this entire week only, we're going to be talking about ranking some teams, ranking some players, meta champions, narratives on regions, and giving my overall preview of the tournament itself. Today, we're going to be ranking the teams. As you can see, it is a simple 1 to 8 graph. We're going to be ranking 8 teams, see which was the best, which is the worst, and if I wanted to make some changes, I would make some changes. If I don't, I'm just going to stay in there. And then later on, I will be posting on Reddit, and then, you know, I'm going to let the crap flies, as many people said. And how am I going to do this? Well, it is pretty much simple. I've been doing this for ever, a long time in my MSI and Worlds preview, and welcome back, the wheel. In case many people do not know the wheel, I will be spinning the wheel with a little click on my mouse or the little click on my enter button, and it will spin the team that will show. If that team shows, I will be talking about that team in terms of narrative, in terms of how they performed, and all that kind of stuff. But not only that, I decided to learn a little something from my good friend Andrew DeStefano. In case many people don't know, Andre Stefano talks about League of Legends from a not only a narratives perspective as me, but also with a numeric experience as me. And I decided that I'm not going to involve numbers in this. So I'm not going to talk about not only talk about the teams in a narrative sense and all kinds of stuff, but also talking numbers of how this team have performed in their region and see if it stacks up against the competition. Now, you notice that I'm going to show you the numbers, and you notice that the numbers that I got are mostly, some of them are from like first split, playoffs. Actually, let me just turn this off. You notice that the numbers that I have are from like the split playoffs because I want to use playoffs as the real measuring thing. It's the equivalent of like, hey, the regular season does not matter if you are a G2 fan, especially best of ones. But when it comes to playoffs, it becomes like the real deal. So I decided to use playoff stats instead of the regular season stats. But it will show me an indication of how this team have performed with higher competition, with higher stakes, and that is going to fester into this tournament, which is, by the way, best of fives and double round robin against some period teams and all that stuff. So I'll be using these numbers, and I'll be using these numbers for not only the teams, but for the players and how to rank the players based on my setting. But that will be for Tuesday and Wednesday and all that stuff. Today is just about the teams, and we like to begin. It's time to begin with the very first team I'll pick, and I'll talk about the narrative. I think I kind of muted the audio from this, so I'm gonna spin the wheel and go. Um, oh wait, hold up. Just hold up, hold up. Okay, good. Now spin the wheel. Okay, which is the first team is going to land? And well, I don't even need. I, listen, let's be honest. I don't even need to rank them. This is an easy slam dunk first seeded team. And if you look by the numbers, it's pretty much showing. Highest KDA beside BLG and the conclusion of the playoffs. And I'm gonna use the keys, by the way. I'm gonna probably use the keys because I copied some of the stats from Oracle Elixir, by the way. Shout out to them. I would love to copy it from, the Gold GG stats, of course, but that would be like a waste of time for me. And not everybody have like the 40 or 50 minutes to kill. So I'm gonna be using the graph and then using my my analysis for this. They got a higher KD, higher than BLG. Their combined kills per minute is second behind FearX. In fact, tied second with BLG, behind FearX, and behind TSW. That's amazing. Goal rate percentage at 1.59, which is cowing everybody, including G2, of course. Yes, you notice that some of the information are kind of incomplete, of course. They don't even post the other information. But in fact, I don't even need to go to the stats. They're better goal average goal spend percentage diff. They're better early game rating. Like early game rating was like at their peak, like 62.8%. Now G2 69.2%, which is, of course, we all know G2 is a good early game. But if you rank them, G and G are kind of like far in between. Well, not far in between. First blood rate is 50-50. But they have looked so far ahead in most of the metrics, most of the statistical metrics. And I feel like right now, they are pretty much the best team in all of LCK in the world. I don't even need to look at stats and ratings and talk about all that kind of stuff. They dominate the LCK Cup. They have dominated the playoffs. And if it wasn't for T1 not choking, we would have Genji and T1 in the finals, and it would be incredible. But unfortunately, alas, that didn't happen. But even then, are you surprised that Genji are the number one team? Absolutely not. So I don't think we're gonna do any more discussion. Genji number one, easy peasy. Let's move on. Hmm. Okay. Loud. Now this is a tricky team. Now Loud has a .86 KDA, .87 combined kills per minute. I think minus. Let me just look. Yeah, minus .63 in terms of goal rate percentage, and a minus .04 on average goal spend percentage. Lowest in EGR, lowest in EGR, second highest in terms of the stats that I have, in terms of mid to late game. So they're not good at early game, but their mid and late game are kind of like the second best. Which, if you are any team, let's say Lion, and I'm going to talk about the preview matches. If you're a Lion right now, and pretty much early game is not great. If you stump Loud game in early, that's great. You probably win the game. But however, if the game goes like 25 to 30 minutes, of course, with all the scaling comps and all kind of stuff, that would be trouble. That would be trouble for them. They're not great at first blood, not even close, 37%. In fact, lower than JDG in most cases. Their first turret percentage is not great. Their first three turret percentage is not, it's the same as Fair X, which is not good. And a little higher than Lion, by the way. Um, Herald percentage and first dragon percentage is just, yeah, not good. In fact, I think dragon control rate is 52%, which is below average, I guess. 67% on Elder and Baron Nashor control, 50.8% on the line. No, 50.8% on the laning. Yes, on lane control, jungle control is 51.6%, which is low. Lower than loud. Actually, loud. Wait, okay, hockey. Wait, yeah, it's low. It's basically lower than Fear X. So based on all the statistical narratives, it's basically low, absolutely lower than so many other teams. And I feel like Loud of for the first time in a long time I've returned to becoming like the CB LOL giants as everybody loves. The one issue I have is their mid laner. And this is not a knock on the new mid laner that come in. But remember, this is a mid laner that came here to just like calm the fires and quench the thirst of everybody because of the whole situation with their ex mid laner being bigger than himself. And now that he finally won a series, although he already played a couple of games, of course, but this is going to be his very first international event ever. And by the way, he's going to do it in front of all those CB LOL fans. All those CB LOL fans that came on an incredible high from the America's Cup, of course. And all the pressure is on him. And if you do not do well with that team and that atmosphere, I tell you one thing, it is going to be, it's not going to be easy. Oh, it's not going to be easy with them. So consider the circumstances. I feel like Loud is a pretty okay team. They are not great in like early game, of course. They're decent in the late game. their Drakes and First Herald and all this kind of stuff is fully charged to the max. But unfortunately, I just don't see this team being convincing enough to trying to like challenge the Lions and probably Gen G and JDG of the world. It's going to be tough for them. I will put them in a respectable eighth position. Now there'll be a lot of CB LOL fans will come after me, and I will give them the benefit of the doubt. But in order for Loud to be like around the sixth or seventh place position, you have to be like an LPL or a Gen G miraculously, and that is gonna be hard to do. I think you can beat Lion. Let me just spoil it again. I think you can beat Lion. I think if they can beat Lion, there the floodgates will be open up for Reddit posts and all kinds of stuff. And the way they've been playing, especially with the late game, I feel like Loud has a chance. But unfortunately, if Gen G and JDG in most suspense get early game leads, then I don't see them happening and winning games, especially in a meta that is pretty much dominates so much in like early games. Like first 50 minutes will be huge, of course. So I put Loud at 8, and I will make some changes after that. Now we'll move on to the next team that'll be picked. Yeah, well, BLG, who are now officially the LPL champions. And by the way, some of the stats are incomplete because of course Oracle Elixir does not have any. I would have gone to another source, but I decided not to. So higher KDA than Gen G, 0.93 same as Gen G, and you look at GSPD, which is pretty much the third highest besides Gen G and TSW, although you can say that regional difference, I guess, but still, they have an 82% first blood percentage. 82%, that's higher than everybody else. And first torrent. So they get first bloods quicker, they get games quicker, and all kinds of stuff. Herald control is at 91%. First dragon is at 45%, which is lower, second lowest to TSW in most cases. I wonder what's the early game. What's the early game rating? Oh yes, I don't have the early game rating. But consider the average. I think, BLG's early game rating will be around the 62, 63, maybe high 64s if we're trying honest. Drake Dragon Control is, I would say, in BLG's case at 55. It's at 55%, which is, by the way, a little bit on average, of course. Baron controlled is at 86, highest Baron controls, and I think Gen G is the same percentage, almost close to G2's percentage with 85% because I kind of think it's a little skewed with what happened in game 5 and all the kind of stuff. 51.3 in the lane control, which is a little higher. In fact, highest lane control team ever by a small margin. Jungle control, which is 55.7%. Same higher percentage than Gen G, and 3.49 wards per minute, which is actually huge, of course, which is second to Gen G, and to Loud, 3 point, actually, yeah, same as Loud. And then you got control wards per minute at 1.19, which is, I think, higher. I mean, second, third. It's third behind Gen G and FearX, the two LCK teams. And JDG is, I think JDG is higher than you, and then you got the two Korean teams. Okay, so in all these stats, I feel like BLG kind of like a top four team, and with the squad that they have, Bin, Viper, Odd, Knight, and they actually got a jungler for once that is not crap, which is actually a great thing. Just almost have that feeling of BLG doing absolutely well for this tournament. They will face off against FearX, which is pretty much the, let's call it the weaker of the four major teams, because you can say that Gen G are number one, BLG are kind of like two, JDG are kind of like two and three, and then FearX is kind of like four. So you're facing off against probably the weakest of the four better teams. And expectations are going in feeling like, hey, they should actually win this. But, and by the way, I don't even get the psychedelic poro preview about it. But by the time this finish it off, I think I'll get a preview. But, and I said the word but, I feel like BLG are kind of like they're a fine team, and I think they're expected to go like semifinals, of course. But are they good enough to beat the Gen Gs of the world? And are they good enough to beat even their regional team JDG in the semifinals? Now we saw BLG just absolutely put JDG in the dumpster in the LPL finals just a couple of days ago. By the way, I'm recording this on Sunday night. It will be up on Monday night. So hence the futuristic thing. I think BLG are good enough to be a top four team. Where in the top four, I'm not sure. But I will put them, I think I'll put them in the second best team. I think I put them right behind Gen G as my second best team. I think based on the stats and the numbers and the way they performed in the LPL, I think it'll give them a benefit of the doubt as my number two team. All right, continuing with the wheel. Hmm. Okay, G2 Esports. This is an easy team to read. I mean, I can easily. The only number I can show you is G2 have a nice percentage of early game rating, 69.2. And this is, by the way, the mid and late rating of 14.1, which, by the way, is only, and based on the stats that we have available, is probably fourth. But if we get more stats between with BLG and JDG, hopefully later on, or maybe like in my theoretical head, I say G2 are kind of like the sixth lowest in terms of the stats. And they are lower than FearX and Lion Gaming. So the simple thing is that G2 are good early game, but as we see the case in the KC series or the KC Game 5, when it comes to late game, they're not great. And you got to give a round of applause to Caps, was being clutch and probably like the savior of the game. But even also, if you're a G2 fan, be honest with yourself. Have you wouldn't swept KC, you would have gone to first stand as pretty much the clear favorite, and honestly, you would never get exposed. Playing the God, if G2 gone to first stand, sweeping everybody else, then all those exposures will get exposed in the international events. And that is going to be a real problem for them. And I will tell you more numbers. They have a first blood rate of 58%, which is not great compared to Lion and BLG and even Gen G. Wait. Wait. Maybe Gen G are not a first blood team. They have 42% on first towers, which is still slower than Loud. In fact, they're lowest. Actually, side lowest with Loud. 75. Let me just not look at that. Herald control, 67%, which is lower than BLG. In fact, way low. It's like second highest. I'm sorry. It is second highest to BLG in terms of Herald control, which is fine. 58% first Drake rate is kind of on average, like more than average. Better than three teams, but not better than your Fearx and Gen Gs. Dragon Control is 57, which is higher than some of the other teams, lower than your BLGs and your JDGs and even your Gen Gs. So if but and by the way, we can look all the stats, and the point remained is that have G2 gone to international without even losing a game, I think they will get exposed by some of the teams. But KC just showed us in that 5 game series that when you give G2, when you put G2 in late game situation and team fighting situations, they're not as good. They're not as good. And while they're facing a gettable Secret Wells team, we saw what the LCP can do against teams that are not great late game and not great in team fighting. If Team Secret Wells can expose G2 in those areas, and if G2 does not show up, go internationally, that's a problem. That's an absolute problem. So for now, I will give G2 the slight benefit of the doubt and we'll put them as fifth place. And I will change them later. It's gonna be they're not good enough to catch the top four, but maybe good enough to be like the best of the rest. You can say that. Because of Caps, because of how good Skillman was, Labrov was decent. The only knock I will give is Hansama. I think Hansama is the only weak spot of that team. And that will be a massive, massive problem for G2 if the ball link is absolutely exposed by some other team. So, yeah, it's going to be a long tournament if Hansama has not played well. All right, 4 down, 4 to go. Let's see the next team, by the way. And by the way, like, comment, subscribe to all of this, and we got more of these next week and beyond. Actually, this week. JDG. All right. As I said, JDG does not have stats. I don't have much stats on JDG, but they got a 1.08 KDA, which is not great among teams. Pretty much at the same level as FearX. And they got goal spend percentage of 1.60. Minus 1.60. Jesus, that's brutal. It's the second lowest, and FearX, by the way, also the second lowest. Um, Combined kills per minute 0.77, which is higher than Lion, but not good enough to like capture all of these teams. In fact, second lowest in combined kills per minute. Now we get to the early game, mid game, which is, by the way, we don't have. Okay, sadly. First blood 73%, which is fine, pretty high, lower than BLG. 55% first turret, which is the third lowest, by the way, lower than G2 and Loud. 50% on the first. No, we don't have stats. Okay, calm down, Akeem. Sometimes you don't have stats. Oh, and I think I read it wrong. Oh, 28%. Yeah, this is it. JDG, 28% on first blood percentage. My lord. JDG's first blood percentage, yes, first blood rate is lower than Loud's. They can't even get first blood to save themselves. Again, disclaimer, this is playoff stats, not the regular season stats, okay? Playoff stats. 61% on first tower, which is the same percentage as FearX, and it's the fourth lowest by any other team. Herald rate is low, like 33% low. They can't even match 40%. They're so low in Herald. First Drake is the same amount of Drake percentage as your Lions and your TSWs of the world. So same amount of percentage as them. In fact, you can say that they are higher than two of the other teams. So to have an average first Drake percentage is good. Dragon rate is 58%, which is a little high, but we look at JDG 68%, and by the way, they'll face off against JDG. If you compare both teams, they're like night and day. Absolute night and day. Baron rate is lower than JDG's 59 to 86, which, by the way, I think is the second lowest. This is the actually third lowest. Third lowest in terms of Baron rate. 49.9%, which is I think second lowest. Actually, second lowest in lane rate. 49.8% in jungle, which is second lowest. 3.96 wards, it's kind of like a little higher than any other team. Wow. And 1.49 control rate, which is higher. So in terms of all these stats, right now this team does not feel great. Now remember, the BLG and JDG stats are incomplete. I'm just talking it at NIM. But JDG does not look great, especially in the playoff final when everybody thought Tabe is the mastermind behind all of them, but even he cannot mastermind a BLG domination win. So do I believe that Tabe lost his magic? No. He just carried a pretty good, decent team to another pretty good international tournament and carried JDG for their first ever international finals in 3 years. Back when they were the most dominant team in all of LPL in the world. But now they're like a shell of themselves, and that's fine. Rebuilding a roster is not easy, and having a coach that knows how to rebuild, how to get young players to do well, and all kinds of stuff. And I think Tabi has done a fantastic job, of course. But let's be honest, I do not see JDG being. I think it's going to be third or fourth seed. It's going to be depend on third and fourth seed. I think it's going to be tough. I think JDG are good. They have some good players. I think I can go through the players if I have to. Yeah. I will go through the players that they have on their team. Yep. So, in case many people don't know, you got Zhao Gu, Junjie, Hongqiu, Gala, Vampire, and the Coach Tabe. Gala Vampire, we all know Gala's great. We all know Vampire is a decent support. The 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 CFO dynamic duo of Junjie and Hongqiu are going to be really masterful. So I think this JDG is not bad. But if you compare with the Bin, John, Knight, Viper, and on, that's a tough one. And by the way, I think these two have already played international before. We all know Gala's great internationally. He won an MSI tournament, of course. Van Bai and Zhao Zhu, it's going to be tough, especially top lane when you have like Bin and Broken Blade and Dokla and Keen being so far ahead. So I think top lane is going to be a really problem. And I think this, based on the stats that we have and the way JDG is performing those stats, I just don't feel good about it. So I will put JDG below BLG. I think they're a third best. I think they're the third best team going into it, and the eye tests have showed the way they played has showed. In fact, they lost so many goal leads in like minute one to like minute zero. They lost a lot of goal leads, of course, in that time. So do I trust them in a goal lead? No. Do I trust them doing well in terms of dregs and everything? No. I think they're gonna get beat by JD Gen G, but I think it'll bounce back. I expected a close series, but I think Gen G will win that series. By the way, a little trailer for my prediction on Friday. But I feel like JDG are gonna be the third best team. Yeah, JDG are the third best team. Maybe the fourth best. I don't know, but we'll go through. Three more teams left. Three more glorious teams left, and we're gonna pick Lion next. Yes, we're going. I believe that his Lion team are just so underrated. Well, not underrated. It's a couple of days ago, Cloud9 absolutely crapped the bed against Furia, losing 5-0 in both series. Do you want me to rant about it? Go ahead, but I don't want to do that. I feel like every LCS fan is pissing off right now. And if that happened to Cloud9, I am worried that Lion will lose to Loud, and Reddit will be even worse. But when you have a team of Dokla and Inspire, you should absolutely beat CB LOL. You should absolutely like clean sweep them, no problem. Maybe a 3-1 if we're lucky. But my worry is Saint, Berserker, and Isles. I think Sakadari Poro did a good preview, of course. Berserker's kind of like a question mark. He's been fine, but he's not been great. He's kind of like, on one hand, he could be the best ADC ever from like way back when, before Cloud9 picked him up. I think Cloud9 picked him up and he was the best. Won a title in Chicago, of course. And on the other hand, you get the DN Freaks Berserker, which is not great and can be scared and just not play well. Isles is kind of like a not so great, although Poppy Game 4 was amazing. And in Saint, first time internationally, how will he stack up internationally with the Caps and the Knights and the Hong Qs of the world? And Envy, who, by the way, also making his debut for reasons. But I think this Lion team is a worrying spot for me. And I will do the stats some justice, by the way. Lion are 1.57 KDA, which is the same amount as TSW, 0.67 in combined kills per minute, 0.75 in goal rate percentage, which is low, very low. And then you got the early game and the mid late game of 60.8, which is basically high, top four, of course, in early games, but 7.4 in the mid to late game, which is the lowest, lower than Fear X. And I think Sakadara Poro said it best that this team are really good with the composition they have, but they don't know how to close things out. And that's a worrying side. If this number is pretty much true, and you could say that Lau could have like 30 to 35 minutes, I'm not sure if Inspire can even carry. I'm not sure Inspire can even make a late game, of course. First Blood is decent, 73, 55 on the first turn rate, 50% on first three turns, which is low based on the metrics that I have right now, which is great. Herald rate 55%, first Drake 50%, Dragon rate 47%, Elder we don't care about much. Baron rate 48%, pretty low, abysmal low, like closer to Fear X's standards, which is so this team is now dazed and unbarren. Lane percentage or percentage rate 50.6, which is bang on average. Fine. 52.2% on the jungle. That's what you get when you have Inspiring the team, and he's been brilliant. Not higher than any other team, but when you have like if you want to rank them the best of the rest, I think he's better than all the other teams, especially better than like, JDG's numbers. That's amazing. So if you look at all of them, right now this is literally inspired or bust. It is literally inspired or bust. And Dokula can actually carry it as well, although Dokula is mostly like a weak side, except for that Team Liquid series when he pick like three weird champions and just make solo queue absolutely crazy. It's going to be inspired or bust. We saw Inspired doing well in it actually last year, especially against the BLG series. We know how capable he is when it comes to international performance. I think it can do well. I think it can make this team shine. And consider the absolute atrocities that is happening with the America's Cup. Lion are literally, and I mean literally, have to. I'm not saying save NA from damnation. I'm more like trying to you know pick them up, right now, because I think David Shyvana pretty much said it best. They are the worst region among all the bottom teams. Maybe it's hit saying, or maybe it's just reactionary, but it's like if LCS cannot beat CB LOL in a tournament that doesn't even matter, what will happen if LCS does not beat CB LOL in a tournament that do matters? And that's my worrying trend. But I think Lion will be fine. I think they'll do well in this tournament. I think their draw is I think they're facing against either Genji or JDG, and my chances of them winning both of these series are not great, or one of them is not great. But if we know Inspired, I think he can do well internationally, especially against the JDGs and the Gen Gs of the world. So based on Inspired performance, I think I'll put Lion sixth place. I think I put Lion sixth. Yeah, I think Lions a sixth place team. Not, I think they and G2 are gonna swap, of course, but I'll do that later. Now, one more team remaining to pick, and then the last team remaining will be my last one. So who will it be? Team Secret Wales or Fear X? And I believe the winner is Team Secret Wales. So congratulations, Team Secret Wales. You are officially in seventh place. Now, I am not gonna do the whole disrespectful thing of like, Akeem, you're disrespecting the LCP and CB LOL again, and I will echo the sentiment about for all people. And to Riot Games, by the way, who I want to do a little disclaimer, a little tangent, by the way. Riot Games, if you're listening to this right now, and you might, and I might get it clipped, I might clip this and pretty much send it to like all the Reddit people and to TikTok and all that stuff. Riot, listen to me. The LCP and the CB LOL deserve more love and more care than you have done to any other bigger region. We get that else. Listen, LCK and LPL do get more love and get more regional spots. But you cannot be serious in saying that LCP and CB LOL get one slot based on their regional performance. They don't. The way that CFO played great last year and the way we saw it in the America's Cup just suggests that I believe that LCP and CB LOL deserve to get more than one slot. It, all the slots in international events should be treated fairly, should be treated equal, and should be treated with respect instead of this whole like theory cap whole thing that Western teams are better than the LCP. No, they're not. They're equal. And we saw it in CFO. We saw it in Team Secret. We're probably going to see it in Team Secret Wales when they face up against G2. And if Team Secret Wales were to beat G2, that pretty much echoes the point, of course. So I'm going to give Team Secret Wales the benefit of the doubt. I think I'll probably use Sakadera Poro's preview just a little bit, but talk about Team Secret Wales just a little bit. 1.59 KDA, which is brilliant. 1.1 combined kills per minute, which is better than all the other teams. So that means they play fast and loose and green and aggressive. Early game rate of 56.2%, which is pretty good. 18.8% in the middle late game, which is third best behind Gen G and Loud, which is not bad. which is not bad. 58% on first blood, pretty good. 67% on first turns, 75% on the first three turns, 55% on Herald control. Based on all these stats, and I get it, it's a playoffs against not so great teams from the LCP, but they know how to play. This team is not as bad as many people think. You got Harutu and Pun, by the way, swapping in the top lane. Hitso, who was great, and I watched that LCP final when he was brilliant on the Vi, by the way. Dyer, Eddie, Baya, they are pretty good. And by the way, Warhorse, who actually coached, I think, Fun Plus Phoenix to the 2019 title. This team is not bad, and yet you treating Team Secret Wells like it's just nothing. It's just nothing. And I get CFO are gone, and I get that the LCP is just a one-team region, but I don't think they're a one-team region. Remember, this Team Secret Wells made the finals of the LCP and got clapped by CFO, which is no surprise there. But I believe that Team Secret Wells deserves to be better ranked than my 7th place rank. The same way I'm going to rank Loud. I believe that the way my rankings have done is a little fugazi, of course, in most cases. And you can make your own rankings based on your delusion and all kinds of stuff. If you want to rank Loud in the top 5, do as you may. But these are my rankings based on narrative and stats and all this kind of stuff. And unfortunately, I think Team Secret Wells are the 7th best team. But maybe, just maybe, if they can play decently well, rattle G2 in the late game, of course, and play some pretty good games against pretty much like your BLGs and Fearx. And by the way, that group would it's probably G2's to lose in most cases. Although you can say that BLG and Fearx, mostly Fearx, are going to be like the least a capable team. But Team Secret Wells can, if Team Secret Wells can somehow beat a BLG or beat a Fearx, let's play devil's advocate, then I don't want to hear anything about Team Secret Wells being a not good team. I want to see Team Secret Wells get the same respect as all the other regions. And I'm not doing this to disrespect you guys. I'm doing this to just say, Riot, treat the other regions with respect. That's all I have to say. And unfortunately, that means that FearX are going to be the 4th best team among all the 4. And I'm not doing this to disrespect the team. Again, I'm just saying Clear, Raptor, Vikla, Diable, and Kellen are decent players. Mostly Diable, his first ever international tournament. Vikla, we all know he's decent. But if I look at these stats from FearX, they have been KDA has been not so great. 0.99 combined kills per minute, which is higher, second highest to Steve Wells. 0.12 in goal rate percentage, which is a little low, a lot low. But minus 1.7 gold spent, which is not great. Not great. Lowest ever. 52.9 in early game rate. Not bad. Actually low. But 1.7 in the mid-late rate. Lowest among all the teams. So this VRX team in the playoffs have not been great. Now, yes, they beat T1. And they beat T1. They beat D plus Kia to get here. They deserve all the flowers, all the praise, all the unity. But the numbers that I see right now just feels like this VRX team is going to get beaten by so many bigger teams. Look at 51% on Dragon Rate. Not even anybody, like lowest by everybody else. Like lowest on Dragon Rate. It's not looking great. Baron Rate, pretty low, 49%. Only second lowest to Lion, for God's sakes. This team screams 3-0s in both matches. And I'm not doing this to disrespect VRX's accomplishments. I'm just saying the numbers are there. The way that finals ended was there. Especially the 2 matches against Gen G was kind of like, yeah, what do you expect? Gen G are better than pretty much every other team. And I know the T1 crowd's going to get at me, but half T1 would have been there, they would have given Gen G a much sterner challenge. In fact, if T1 did not drop the ball against D plus Kia, let's be honest, I feel like T1 could have been at first stand, and I believe they'll be a much better team. Let's just say I think they'll be at the same level as Gen G and be better than all the LPL teams. I'll have them at number 2. That's the difference between a team that has been there, win a lot of titles, and a team that hasn't been there, have decent good players, but are not good enough statistically wise and eye wise to just be good. You just got lucky that T1 did not perform well on that day, and that's great. But this is your first international tournament. This is your chance to do it. I did a short on you guys. You got to prove me wrong. Gotta prove me wrong. You gotta put your chips on the table, and you gotta prove me wrong. It's hard, I get it, but you're the fourth best team in the region for a reason. You're not good enough to beat Genji, we all know that. But can you be good enough to beat the two LPL teams? I think that'll be a question if you get BLG in the upper bracket, of course. But for now, I need a top four team. So let's see if I can do any changes. I think 7 or 8 are fine. I think 5 and 6 need some changing. But I think consider how the America's Cup has gone, and consider that I think I 5 and 6 is tough. G2 versus Lions is gonna be a really tough game to call balance wise because both great junglers. Mid lane difference is pretty much on G2 side. I'll keep the 5 and 6 as well. Fearx 4, JDG 3, BLG 2, Gen 1. Okay, I think these are my rankings. I believe that is the rankings for the first stand, pre-tournament rankings, of course. So that concludes the team side of it. Tomorrow we get to the player side of it and how I rank my players. It's gonna be really tough. It's gonna be really, really tough for me, but I will have to do all I can. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on TikTok and Twitter and YouTube Shorts for more content and all kind of stuff. Congratulations to myself. Pat myself on the back to have 65 subscribers. Onwards and upwards to 100 before Worlds ends. The road is long, but I think I can do it. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, as I said, and have the rest of the week.